Okay, so the supplies that you're going to need to make this cover are 2 pieces of your main fabric cut at 8 inches by 10 inches. I'm using hessian here. It's also known as burlap in other parts of the world. You need 2 pieces of lining fabric, again cut at 8 by 10, and I'm using a calico type fabric. And then you need a piece of main fabric cut at 8 by 6.5. Again, I'm using the hessian to match the outside of the cover, and a piece of lining fabric, again 8 by 6.5. Okay, so to start, we're going to take the 2 pieces of fabric which measure 8 by 6.5, and I'm going to put the right sides together. I'm just going to set my machine to a regular straight stitch, and I'm going to use the outside of my presser foot as a guide to run along the top edge of this fabric. And I'm just going to sew a straight seam all the way down. So I'm going to go backwards and forwards at the beginning and then just follow the line all the way down. Go backwards and forwards at the end just to lock off the stitches. And that's how we're looking. Then I'm going to fold this over. You could press it with an iron here. I would say as well that I've ironed all these pieces before I've started sewing, because I think that you get a nicer finish if you do that. I'm going to fold this over, keeping it all nice and square, and then I'm going to top stitch just along the edge here just to hold this in place. And again, I'm just going to line the outside of my presser foot up to this bottom edge of the calico, but I'm going to move my needle over. If you don't have the facility to move your needle over, just position your needle yourself. Okay, so that's that done. Now, you'll see now that the outer fabric is longer than the inner. That's fine. We're going to cut this off now. So I'm just going to take a pair of scissors. You can do this however you want, with a rotary cutter, whatever you want. I'm just going to use scissors, and I'm just going to square it up. And that's waist, and that's our pocket for the front. So now we're going to get a piece of main fabric and a piece of lining. Again, put the right sides together, and we're just going to sew. I'm going to put my machine back to how it was, to a regular straight sit stitch. Use the outside of the presser foot as a guide to run along this edge, and just sew these two together with right sides facing. And I'm going to repeat that with the other one. Okay, so just to repeat what we've done, right sides together, we're going to sew along the 8-inch side. So that's how we're looking there. Just to give this a little bit of a neater finish, what I'm going to do while these are opened out, I'm going to top stitch just along this calico edge here on both pieces. I don't know if you can see that, but that's what I've done there. And I'm just going to repeat the same on this one. Okay, so what we're going to do now, we've got one of our pieces right side up. We're going to take our pocket and put that, so that's right side up, onto the main part, which will become the front. Then we're going to take our other piece and put this right side down on top. So you're sandwiching your pocket in between your front and your back. And I'm just going to use clips to hold this in place, but you can pin it, you can do whatever you want. Just going to put a few clips in it just to hold it. What you want to try and do is match up your seams where your main fabric and your lining fabric meet. My fabric's gone a little bit off, but not to worry. Just put some extra clips where this pocket section is. And then I'm going to put some pins in one side. And that's as a reminder for me, really. Okay, so what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, where these pins are, I'm going to leave this section open. In fact, I might make it a little wider, because I've got to pull all this through. So I'm going to start sewing here and go backwards and forwards. Sew all the way down, across, up, back round and back to this pin and do backwards and forwards. So the only section that I'm not sewing is this section in the middle of the two pins, and that's where we're going to turn everything inside out. Okay, so I've got the machine set up to a regular straight stitch. I'm going to use the outside of the presser foot again as a guide to sew all the way around, and I'm starting where I put this pin. So I'm just going to go backwards and forwards here just to reinforce that, and then as I go I'm going to take the clips out. Just be careful when you're going over the seams, because you've got a few seams together there. And again, when you get to this section where the pocket is, you want to go backwards and forwards there to reinforce that, because that's going to take some strain when you're putting things in and out of that pocket. I'm going to stop with the needle in the down position, lift up the presser foot and pivot, and then keeping that foot on the outside edge, I'm going to go along again. Again, lift the presser foot up and pivot. Looking for where the pocket is, because again, where this pocket is, I'm going to go backwards and forwards here to strengthen that seam. You can kind of feel where it is with your machine as well. And then again, just be careful when you're going over the seams. My calico shifted a little bit, that's why I'm not using the edge on the edge of the fabric. You can see underneath it's just moved a little so I can see it underneath, so I know roughly where I'm going. I can trim it up later. Sometimes, you know, your fabric does move. Back round now to the last section, and just remember to back tack to leave this gap open here. So what you might want to do now is, where you've got your pocket on the bottom here, these seams are going to be quite bulky, so you may want to just trim back a little with some scissors, just close-ish to your sewn line, but not too close that you're going to cut the stitches. I'm probably at about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 mil, just to take away some of the bulk really. You could do this with pinking shears, but all this is going to be inside, so it's not really necessary. And you might not have a lot of bulk depending on what fabric you're using, but hessian or burlap is quite thick, so you know, if you want to take some of the bulk out of this bottom seam or this bottom section of your bag. Okay, so that's how we're looking. We've got our opening here, and then we're just going to go inside and pull the whole thing out through this gap. And you might have to do this a little at a time and ease it through, but it will come through that gap. Okay, so here it is now turned inside out, and then what you want to do is roll out the seams, because you're going to press this and you want to make sure that you've got all the seams all rolled out properly. And I just take something like this, an old ball tool, or you can use a pair of scissors or something, and then get inside and push out your corners. But if you're using scissors, be careful, because you don't want to come pushing through your fabric. But basically it should start to look like this, and you've got an opening here, and they should naturally fold in from where you sewed before, from where you did your seam. And then what you're going to do, you're just going to go back to the machine and seal this up, because this is going to be the lining and you're not going to see it anyway. So I'll just do that. You can see here hopefully where the opening is, and I'm just going to sew very, very close to that edge. I'm just going to backwards and forwards at the beginning, literally just very, very tightly down to that edge. I'm not taking any seam allowance. In fact, I think I may have missed. Just going to go back a bit there. Yeah, I've just come off the edge a bit there, so so all the way down to close that gap up. Just trim off that little bit there. And then this is just going to get tucked inside now. Okay, so that's all pushed back inside now, and I've pushed it right down into the corners. And then it just needs a press. But that's your iPad case, and with your pocket on the front, I keep my earbuds in mine, and I actually put my glasses in it at night as well. And if you look, this is my iPad, and it's in a case, and it fits in there with the case comfortably. This is actually mine. This was made about, I don't know, a year and a half ago. And I actually put a little elastic on mine, and I can fasten it over with a button. But to be honest, I never use it. So, but you can see I've got my earphones. So the earphones will go in there. You can put your glasses in there. And then you can put your iPad in there. And you've got yourself a smart iPad case. So I hope you found that helpful. Please like, share and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.